All right, good morning or good afternoon, good evening. It is my delight to greet you on behalf of the West Virginia Citizens Action Group. My name is Ronald English. I'm president of the Charleston branch NAACP, and really looking forward to this presentation today. There had been an interruption the last time, but sometimes interruptions spur anticipation and participation. And I think that that's the reason for the number of participants that are already online in terms of what their interest is. This is a program that is being produced by the Truth and History of several and the support by several organizations. And so without any further ado, I want to present Takaya Smith to greet us on behalf of one of the supporting organizations for this program.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. I appreciate everyone regrouping. My name is Takaya Smith, and I'm the Executive Director of Young West Virginia. I am so glad to be able to communicate and be here today with everyone who is prioritizing the condition of our schools. I know that so many of us worked to address and protect local schools, schools and local power in this last election season, maybe through the amendments or through school board resolutions or so many of the various advocacy opportunities that have come with our school, that have come with schools and equity, diversity, and inclusion. I wanted to start off today by telling you a little bit about what myself and my students have been working on over the last 6 months. Over the last 6 months, we have been in Jefferson, Berkeley, Mongolia, Cabell, and Kanawha County, connecting with parents, students, teachers, advocates, school board members, and any community members we could that we believed shared our core values of protecting local power and keeping the decision-making at the school board level. We know that through some of the proposed amendments that potentially could have moved to the state legislature, and we wanted to make sure that we were working to keep power with those who we have trusted to make those decisions at the local level. We also wanted to protect local funds, and that is what we've been advocating for. We were canvassing, going door to door, having one-on-ones, we're text banking, phone calls, emailing. Students were talking to their professors, their DEI-focused chapters on campus. And I think that's really given us a lot of opportunity to build off of what we were able to accomplish with defeating those amendments. We know that the fight for diversity and protection of our children in our schools doesn't start or end with the amendment, with Amendment 2 or 4, that we will continue. And so I won't say much more, but we know that when it comes to disciplinary action in our schools, there have been great disparities, racial disparities, class, obvious issues with how low income students are overrepresented, and how they in disciplinary action and suspensions and out of school placement. And I think local organizations like Center of Budget and Policy, Reverend Watts, American Friends Service Committee, these are organizations that have been working to address these things for for a while now, and we've made some headway, but there's still a way to go. So That is what I will say for now. We're going to continue and to meet with our partners that we've built with. And many of you, or maybe some local organizations that you know have probably started to get emails from students inviting folks for a January call. And those January calls that you're being invited to by students will be led also by students, either high school students or local college students. So please look out for those emails from Young West Virginia asking for DEI all call to action. And that is where I'll leave it. Thanks, y'all.
Sounds like that. Okay. Thank you, Takai. It's now my privilege to introduce the guest speaker. And again, we want to ask that you would be sure to share your name, city, organization, and why you have joined us today, because this is a real time for the connections that have been successful, but also how we can maximize those connections by way of what we are doing today and how we are reinforcing each other and resourcing each other in this process and in this work. I'm really delighted to introduce a friend who I've known over the years, but whose resilience and whose resistance and whose persistence has been a mark of inspiration for me, as well as others that he has been working with the Charleston branch NAACP, and in coordination with and in the from the inspiration of the work done by the Tuesday Morning Group. We have formed this kind of alliance over the years, and it really has really strengthened now because of the work that he is doing. And so I don't know anyone else that whose drive that I appreciate more and whose spirit I appreciate more than Reverend Matthew J. Watts, pastor of the Grace Bible Church, instigator, inspirator, inspiration, and just community activist and good friend. And Pastor Watts, delighted to have you again tonight. And I know that your insights will be something that will be invigorating as well as inspirational and informational. So Pastor Watts, proceed, sir, for the order of the night.
Thank you, Brother English, for those kind words of introduction. I certainly value the friendship that we've had for over 40 years. And so we've been friends when we were both young. And now we're old. And we're old and we're still friends. And I really value our friendship, because you can't find new old friends. I want to thank the Truth and History Group. I want to thank the Citizens Action Group, of course, the Charleston branch NAACP, Rise Up, Young West Virginia, Takayat, and everyone else that's on the call who made this call possible tonight. I'm going to try to be expeditious with my time to move through a series of slides to try to set the stage for hopefully kind of a robust conversation toward the end. You know, in the Old Testament book of the Kings, you know, there was the great prophet Elijah, and then there was this young man, Elisha, who wanted a double portion of what Elijah had. And Elijah said, well, you got to stick around to see me when I get caught up. If you see me then, maybe you'll get it. So this is my last major campaign in terms of trying to advance a social justice issue. I believe the most important thing that I've ever worked on, and when you hear me speak about this, I think you start to see, for I believe that everything that I've ever worked on for the last 30 years trying to move a social justice issue and agenda, it culminates in this. And I'm going to try to lay some of it out tonight. And I got Miss Allison Toller on. So Allison, if you were prepared to key up the slide presentation, then we'll go get started. And some of the slides I'm going to move through somewhat quickly, because my Chief of Staff, Mr. Jennifer Dean, is preparing a handout. This presentation is currently embargoed until my staff says it's ready to go. So it hasn't been finalized yet. There may be a few typos. So I'll actually focus on the content. And But I call student school suspensions the silent underlying social condition, unrecognized, unaddressed, and not fully understood. And it's resulting in the undereducation of masses of low-income people across the country. It's a national phenomenon. West Virginia is no exception, but we could be an exception in terms of doing something about it. Next slide. Basically, here's the ground we're going to cover. Even over this crisis, I believe it's in West Virginia. The history of school suspension issue, overview of the legislation that was passed in 2020 to supposedly address the issue, overview of the Western Department of Education School Discipline Report, the summary of that report, and while I believe it does have some value, the short and long-term consequences of student school suspensions, steps that we believe the state Board of Education should take along with the Department of Education, steps the legislature could take, steps the workforce development system could take, and actions that the social justice advocacy groups could take. Next slide. These slides I'm going to run through quickly because Sister Crystal Good, one of my longtime friends, and I feel like she's actually a daughter, she's put together an incredible timeline of the apathetic indifference towards school suspensions. But it started, we found reports back as late early 1976, where this issue was visited at the direction of then Governor John A. Rockefeller IV. Another report in 1980. U.S. Department of Justice cites West Virginia for disproportionate minority kids being assigned to special education, underrepresentation, and gifted. Next slide. 2005, my friend Dr. Stephen Haas looked at the juvenile justice system and found that there was disproportionate minority contact. Black youth were overrepresented at every stage of the juvenile justice system. The state was reluctant to do anything about that. 2009, Justice Department cites West Virginia for the disproportionate minority contact. 2012, they take away money. Next slide. 2015, the United States Office of Civil Rights, they cite West Virginia for violating the civil rights of children with disability. Minority students are 4 times more likely to be affected. 2015, the landmark report from the University of Pennsylvania, which really got my attention. Former excellent education reporter, Gazette Mail, Ryan Quinn, did an incredible article back in 2015, which really caused me to start to dive deeper into this issue. 2015, Rick Martin and some others of us went to the state superintendent to try to get them to work with us to see if we could partner to address this issue. They refused to give us the data. It was 2 years later, in 2017, before we finally got the data that they released to us. State and overseas Charleston Branch Tuesday Morning Group hosted it. We held 2 summits in 2017 to try to bring public attention to this issue of the disproportionate suspension of minority children, particularly African Americans, because that's the data we had at that time. At that time, the reports that were being generated was only looking at the overrepresentation and disproportionate suspension and expulsion of African American children. So then in 2019, next slide, we approached the state legislature. We asked them to take a look at this, make it a part of the omnibus House Bill 206. When they looked at education reform, they refused to honor our request. But we did get a commitment from Senator Tricia Rucker, who at the time was the Senate Education Chair. And when she came back in 2020, we would take a look at it. I called her at her home before the 2020 legislative session. She said, we'll talk when I get into Charleston, and we did. She worked on a bill that I thought that she was going to pass, but she took some ideas from Tuesday Morning Group and later changed her mind. She introduced Senate Bill 723, action to address school discipline in West Virginia public schools. At the time, I was a little bit disappointed at the bill, but it wasn't until 2 years later when I really studied it word by word, I began to realize there was more substance in the bill than what I had realized in 2020. I'll talk about that. So the bill required the Western Department of Education to collect, compile, analyze school discipline data statewide, put it in a report, develop a statewide plan to address school discipline, implement that plan and report back to the legislature 2 years later, beginning in 2022. So the Western Department of Education released the state school discipline report in July. Next slide. So then the game sort of continued. Legislative Oversight Commission, Commission on Education Accountability received the report. It did not have a plan, and so they could not report on progress that had been made to address the problems county by county. But Lucille didn't ask them a single question about the report. I was out of town when the Lucille met, but Rick Martin was there, and he was somewhat appalled that there was no conversation about it. So then I decided I would then start to go to every state school board meeting every month. I was going to be like the woman in Luke chapter 18 that kept showing up at the judge's office where he was convening court demanding for justice. And so after 3 months, I think they got the picture that he's probably going to show up every month. And then the state school board president, Mr. Paul Hardesty, basically said, okay, we're going to take some action, Reverend Watts. We're going to look at a pilot project on the west side of Charleston, and we'll see if we can kind of move some things forward. So that's where we are at this present moment. Nothing of any substance has been done. At least I do believe that we've got the attention of the state school board in the State Department of Education. Next slide. Just quickly, this is kind of a play on words. Back in 2002, I did a speech, Crisis in African American Communities in West Virginia. Does anybody care? It's almost 21 years ago. I did it at the Unitarian Universalist Church right across the street from my church. It created no small stir, but Delegate Carrie Webster took that my notes from that presentation, and she compiled House Concurrent Resolution 76, which led to the Select Committee on Minority Affairs Interim Committee, which led to the Select Committee on Minority Affairs report. It had 29 findings of fact and 36 specific recommendations of challenges facing African Americans and what could be done to address those. But almost nothing has been done to address any of those challenges in the 29 findings of fact, and almost no of the 36 recommendations were actually acted upon. So that report was used to create actually the Herb Henderson Office of Minority Affairs, which is supposed to use the Select Committee on Minority Affairs report as a guide to its office. But that certainly has not happened since that office was created around about 2012. So now I'm back in 2022 on the eve of 2023, and I'm saying there's a crisis in almost heaven, West Virginia, almost everywhere for poor children. Next slide. That crisis can clearly be seen in the public education system. 4 reports released over the last 5 months. I'm appalled that the state elected leaders, business leaders, state school boards, county school boards haven't convened major summit. The Western Department of Education issued a school discipline report, 32,000 student school suspensions in West Virginia each year. And that probably represents some between 16 and 18,000 students that are suspended from public schools in West Virginia every year. Nearly 8% of all the students are suspended at least once. In the next report, the state standardized test scores are still well below the pre-COVID-19 levels. These are the state standardized tests. So we're doing worse than we were doing before COVID-19 on the statewide test. Next slide. Third report, the Higher Education Policy Commission, they issued a report, and it revealed that only 46%, less than 46% actually, of the 21-21 Western High School graduating class enrolled in a post-secondary education program. Only 31% of low-income children. That is the lowest that it's been before sometime in 2000. We evoked the response from the Chancellor of the Higher Education Policy Commissioner, Dr. Sarah Sue Tucker. She says, we've got a crisis. We will not be able to fill job openings from college level graduates if we continue at this pace. There's been almost no response from elected officials around the state. Next slide. The fourth report was the National Report Card. The West Virginia's National Assessment of Education Progress, the NAEP test. There's a sampling of students in every state in the United States that takes the NAEP test so they can compare educational proficiency of children from state to state. West Virginia had the steepest decline in its NAEP test scores from any state in the union in the most recent test. Since the test was last given in 2019, and our NAEP test scores are the second lowest in the nation, just barely above New Mexico. Next slide. Economic crisis, I don't need to tell you, we're one of the poorest states in the union, one of the highest poverty rates, one of the highest, lowest labor force participation rates, and that's been a chronic problem forever. Poor children are in crisis, education, economically. Next slide. Health crisis, West Virginia is ranked as the state, it's the most unhealthy state in the union, suffering from serious chronic diseases. And this was the case long before COVID hit, long before the opioid crisis. It's been exacerbated by opiate and by COVID-19. And the opiate epidemic has led to us now having the lowest life expectancy in the country. Next slide. Now, substance misuse crisis, I don't need to talk about that. We're the poster child when they talk with opiate addiction, opiate misuse, and overdoses and deaths. Next. Child foster care crisis, they come to Charleston every year, they talk about it, they do very little about it. We've got over 7,000 children in the child foster care system, one of the highest rates of our children population in the foster care system in the country. And there doesn't appear to be any improvement in sight because of the next slide. We just paid $1 million to some outside consultant to tell us that DHR is dysfunctional, silos, doesn't communicate, ineffective, and inefficient with this $6 or $7 billion a year budget. I think I just saw on the news that the DHR secretary may be retiring. So there's major reorganizations that are taking place there, but it's a bureaucratic nightmare. Next slide. So that's why I say we got a crisis in almost everywhere. And, you know, we've been studying, reading, talking about the juvenile justice system, which has its major challenges, adult prison overcrowding system. My good friend Tim DePiero, I think he's on the call. He's written eloquent op-ed pieces about it. He's trying to create some legislation, work with legislators to try to address the problem. So it's light as shepherd. I see no improvement in sight. We continue to have a over prosecution, which leads to over convictions and over incarceration. And we continue to have one of the highest rates of incarceration in the country. And I don't see it changing anytime soon. Next slide. Housing crisis, we have one of the highest rates of home ownership. We have some of the poorest housing in the country. That's why when the floods hit southern West Virginia, many people are left homeless because they're living in these shacks. There's an extreme shortage of safe, affordable, energy efficient housing in our state. There's a crisis in almost heaven in West Virginia, almost everywhere, for the 300,000 plus people in our state that live in poverty, particularly for those children. Next slide. And all this culminates, I believe, with the challenges with education. So that's why we've been so passionate about trying to push for real education reform for the masses, not what's been put forth by the Republican-controlled legislature, which is myopic education reform, which is exclusive education reform, which focuses primarily on charter schools for a few thousand children and Hope scholarships for a few thousand children, but no real reform that will improve the educational outcomes for the 250,000 children that remain in West Virginia public school system. So the bill that was introduced back in 2020, Senate Bill 723, addressing school discipline in West Virginia's public schools, at the time we were disappointed because it wasn't robust enough, but we now believe we have something to work with. Next slide. So basically, you know, I'm not going to read it to you. It's a very modest bill. We'll send it. You can Google it. Three paragraph bill. Basically, the legislature is requiring that the State Department of Education, Western Department of Education, collect, compile, analyze school discipline lessons statewide, develop a report, develop a statewide plan, implement that plan statewide, collect data from the counties, and then come back and report to LaCIA in 2 years, beginning in 2022, what the outcomes were. Next slide. So that's the bill. And sometimes in a marvelous economy of words, you can get something that's pretty spectacular. And I tell people often, I believe that the 13th Amendment to the United States of America, which abolished the private practice of slavery in a marvelous economy of 43 words, the architecture of the 13th Amendment, ended and abolished the practice of slavery among private citizens and then reestablish slavery when it's practiced by the government as a form of punishment for those convicted of a crime, and then give them the authority to pass laws to practice legal slavery. So sometimes there's a genius in a few words, and I think that may be the case here. Next slide. So quickly, I'm going to share with you a summary of the school discipline report. The report has excellent data, but it's not a very well prepared report. Too many tables, too many numbers, too hard and complicated to follow, but the content is quite substantive. What I've tried to do is to distill down the report into a couple of manageable slides so you can see here's the real essence of the report. Next slide. So what is the value of this Western School Discipline Report? It does have value. Some people dismissed it because they saw it's been too complicated to understand, but it has tremendous value. Next slide. Here's the value. Number one, it unmasks the school discipline problem and the suspension problem. It's not been merely about race. In the state of West Virginia, if you only talk about something that affects Black people, I can guarantee you nothing's going to happen to address it. That's a sure way not to get something addressed. So the school suspension issue had been framed as being an issue just a disproportionate suspension of African American children. This report, it broadens the magnitude and the scope of the school discipline problem to include socioeconomic disability status and child foster care. Now it's a much broader problem that affects a much broader population. Therefore, there should be a broad-based constituency of individuals and groups who say they're advocating for these populations to come together to really move the issue. And it also shows that this issue contributes to some of our major societal problems. Next slide. Here's a quick summary of the report. As I referenced, 32,000 student school suspensions a year. 7% of the kids suspended are low-income children. They're low-income children, and they're low-income. This one, so I got something interrupting me here. Okay, they're low-income children, and that's the socioeconomic component that has been somewhat obscured by the overemphasis, in my opinion, on the racial component. And thirdly, you can see that Black students are disproportionately suspended at 2.4 times higher than their representation. We knew that. Multiracial students are also suspended at a 1.34 times their representation of student population. Students with disabilities, which was surprising, that they're suspended at a rate 1.8 times their percent representation. Low SES, 1.4 times, and children in the foster care system suspended 3.1 times their representation in the student population. Now we have an issue that affects a much larger swath of the student population in our state. So it's a lot harder to just ignore it and dismiss it. It's just the incorrigible, unruly, disrespectful, uncontrollable Black children. It's a much larger population of young people, the majority of which are low-income Caucasian children. Next slide. That's just the data, just another way each of the groups identified in red, each of the student categories, that's their overrepresentation in the suspension population. Next slide. Another way of showing it, the red line is 1. If you're at the red line or below the red line as a student category, then you've been suspended commensurate with your representation of the population. If you're above the line, then you're disproportionately represented. Next slide. Discipline referrals, now hit on a couple of these quickly. We have not been able to get the Department of Education at the state level, the county level, to give us the updated data. So the last data that I have is for the 18-19 school year, but looking at the statewide data since then, it's not going to be much different from the data we have now, because there were about 32,000 student school suspensions in 2018-19 statewide, and that's what it still is now after COVID. So next slide. What this slide shows is the percent of each student category that's referred for discipline. So if you look at the graph there, you can see that Black children, 39% of all Black children, there were 40% of Black children in West Virginia school system are referred for discipline at least one time during the school year. So you can see that Blacks are the outlier. They're suspended they're referred for discipline much higher rates than any other student category, white, multiracial, the different groups that's identified here. So that's where it starts. It starts with disciplinary referral. Next slide. As you're looking at this by county, you can find your county. And I want you real students to look at this closely, then because I'm gonna ask you a question coming up. And I might want to, is there anything that jumps out to you on this? Note that in all these counties, and we were looking at back then at the 15 counties that have the highest African American population. So 15 counties, 90% of all children reside in 15 counties, okay? And so that's why we were looking at that time simply about race. So the blue is the Black children, the gold is the white children, and that's the percentage of those children that are referred in those counties for discipline. So you can see these poor counties, Mercer County and McDowell County, nearly 60% of their Black children are referred for discipline at least one time during the school year. Now, what jumps out at anybody? Anything that jump out on you? Let me tell you what it is. Look at institutional programs. Institutional programs is the only place where Black children and white children are referred for discipline at almost the same rate. In the institutional program are the children that are confined, that are locked up in juvenile detention facilities, where the Department of Education provides the programming. So that's the only place where Blacks and whites are referred for discipline at just about the same rate. In fact, whites are actually disciplined slightly higher than Black. Next slide. West Virginia State School Board. So the in-school suspensions. Dr. Montalto asked a question, and I'm not going to stop for questions here, but I will on this one. That's the West Virginia School for the Deaf and Blind. The West Virginia School for the Deaf and Blind is the one that they have their own school and their own school system. So the West Virginia School for Deaf and Blind. And school suspension. Next slide. So as you would expect, if Blacks are referred for discipline at a much higher rate, then once that discipline is adjudicated, then they would probably be placed in some type of separation in terms of in-school suspension. So it's exactly what you said. For the most part, Blacks are placed in in-school suspension at about twice the rates of other student categories. Next slide. This is what the statewide in-school suspension looks like. It's very similar to the disciplinary referrals. Blacks are placed in school suspension at a much higher rate. The only place where they're commensurate is in institutional educational settings, which is basically juvenile detention centers. Next slide. Out of school suspension, this is the one that, gets everybody's attention. Next slide. So as you'd expect, if Blacks are referred at much higher rates, then they're going to be disciplined at much higher rates in terms of in school as well as out of school. So you can see Blacks are suspended out of school at about twice the rate of the other student categories. And none of this is anything new. Unfortunately, I do not have to show you the graphs broken down about socioeconomic because the department is not providing me with that information. But as soon as we get it, we will share that. Next slide. And so, as you would expect, the counties that have the highest disciplinary referral rates, also the counties that have the highest out-of-school suspension rates. And so if you can see here, those of you in Kanawha County, that Kanawha County, you know, it has a pretty high rate of out-of-school suspension of Black children. Over 22% of all Black children are suspended at least once during the school year. And so by us having by far the largest county population of school students, about 25,000. So we have the highest number of children suspended by that. One of the things I want to bring to your attention is that look at McDowell County, all right? And so here McDowell County is the poorest county in West Virginia, one of the poorest in the country. Here McDowell County has the lowest educational achievement, the lowest academic performance, the lowest college going rate, the lowest labor force participation rate, the highest unemployment rate, but they also have the highest rate of out-of-school suspensions. And that's why I say this is the silent underlying social condition, unrecognized, unaddressed, and not fully understood, that it's driving a lot of social negative pathology because the poorest communities are remaining the least educated communities and the undereducated communities because they have high rates of their children being suspended from school. And we'll touch on that a little bit later. Next slide. This is an important slide, and I think I may have a new data point on this on the report I was reading this morning. But it's one of the most powerful documents from a very reputable organization. All youth, all students graduate. And what it shows is the impact that school suspensions has on students, lowering the probability they will graduate and go into post-secondary education. So they're saying in the 9th grade, if a child has one school suspension in the 9th grade, right, if they have a 75% probability of graduating, if they have no suspensions, and a 58% chance of going to post-secondary, and 16% chance of dropping out. But with one school suspension, the probability of dropping out doubles to 32%. The probability of graduation drops from 75 to 52%. And the probability of going on to post-secondary education dropped from 58% to 39%. And with each school suspension, the probability of dropping out increases, the probability of graduating decreases, the probability of post-secondary education decreases. That's why I call it the silent underlying social condition. It has an impact much more severe than what people would realize. And there is a plethora of data to support this. And that's why we're just concerned that for 7 years, we've been unable to really get the state school board, State Department of Education, legislature, local school board, and even most people to pay attention to this issue. Next slide, and I'm almost through. So quickly, I hit the short and long-term consequences of excessive discipline suspension. It lowers academic achievement, i.e. the achievement gap, kids missing too much instruction, high rates of school absenteeism, more academic instruction missed, high rates of truancy because each unexcused absence with suspension goes toward truancy. 10 unexcused absences, the school system can file a petition against the parent and the student and bring them into the juvenile justice system. So next slide, high rates of entering the juvenile justice system because the #1 status offense bringing kids in the juvenile justice system is a school suspension. High rates of kids dropping out of school because they fall so probably high rates of not going to post-secondary education, high rates of youth graduating from the schoolyard to the prison pipeline. This is not just some anecdotal statement. I just read a report, Bowling Green State University and Eastern Kentucky University did a longitudinal study of 7,000 children over a 6 to 7 year period, and they concluded that school suspension was the primary factor that predicted who would move from the school to the prison pipeline. Next slide. High rates of unemployment, underemployment, high rates of poverty because of low labor force participation, high rates of poor community and population health. Dr. Montalto is on the call. He knows from a bunch of research that the two number one predictors of how healthier people will be is their income level and their education level. So we see that in communities in southern West Virginia. We see it on the west side of Charleston. Low education levels, low income levels, poor community population health. Next slide. So what can the state school board do? And these recommendations have been submitted in writing to the state school board and the Washington Department of Education. They need to compile data reports for each of the 55 counties and get them to the county boards of education. And they need to start having these conversations with their local communities. Each school needs to have a report so that they can be talking about, here's the challenge we have with school discipline suspensions, and we need to address it. Encourage the local school improvement councils that by state statutes required to be in each school, and one of the responsibilities is supposed to be helping develop plans to improve the overall performance of the school, but also to review discipline and develop a report and send it to the superintendent with recommendation. Next slide. The state needs to convene a statewide summit, virtual, and they need to lay this out to the public, like I'm trying to do, but they need to lay it out because they're the one that compiled the report. And they encourage each local county board of education to do the same thing. And we're encouraging them to support our aperture on the west side of Charleston to create a pilot project to serve as a template for the rest of the state. Next slide. What can the Washington legislature do? They can do what they are capable of doing. They should allocate funds to the State Workforce Development Board to address some of the strategies I'm going to show you in the next slide. We're swimming in money, $1.2 billion in the budget surplus, between $500 million and $700 million left, $700 million left in the ARPA allocation. The legislature convened public hearings during the legislative session and require the State Department of Education to come and give a report to them about what they're doing to address this issue. And we're encouraging them to amend Chapter 18-243 to require Washington Department of Education to give a report every year instead of every 2 years and report during the interim periods. Next slide. These are things that Workforce West Virginia should do. Most of you aren't even familiar with who they are, but they're meeting us tomorrow. You could probably listen virtually. They got money, they got resources, and they got a charge from the federal government. They're supposed to be targeting the most at-risk youth in a community between ages 14 to 24 to help them to get education, job training that will lead to employment. So we're encouraging them to really look at the program that Voc Rehab has about career awareness, and that every child that graduates from high school should have a career plan. Number two, they should identify funds, and the funds and the opera fund between $500 million and $750 million. And we need to have a robust summer work academic enrichment program for in-school youth, like I participated when I was a kid, some 50 years ago. Next slide. They should develop a special pilot project that targets these kids that have been suspended, that's way behind academically, because we need to give them a lot more help to try to increase their education levels. And they could develop and implement a special project to target these young adults who've kind of fell out of school, quit school. It's called these disconnected youth, over 50,000 of them that are wandering around the state, not in school and not working and not have a plan of what they're going to do. Next slide. They should partner with local schools to try to address the suspension problem with resources that they have. And they should develop, I believe, a Promise Scholars internship. Our brightest kids are in the history program, Health Science Technology Academy. They're in the Upward Bound program, and they're in the Promise Scholars. And we need to be trying to connect them to internship to try to get them to stay in West Virginia when they graduate from college. Quickly, give me 3 more minutes. Next slide. Action that education advocacy groups should consider. This is you and me. Letters to the State Board of Education and Department of Education, encourage them to embrace the Tuesday Morning Group's plan. Just what I laid out to you. about them doing a statewide summit, them developing these reports for the state and for local schools, and for them taking the lead to advance this issue. 4 letters to the Senate and House education chairs and encouraging them to amend 18243 that would require the state to Department of Education to give a report every year, and to allocate funds to go to local community-based organizations to help them develop after-school programs, weekend programs, summer enrichment programs to really try to work with these kids, and encourage the governor's office, House Speaker, and Senate President to look at a pretty comprehensive plan, which we'll talk about later time, that the Tuesday Morning Group has submitted to the governor, House Speaker, and Senate President, and the minority leaders as to how these opera dollars could be allocated around the state in the most distressed areas to build community capacity. Next slide. And then this is going to require a top down and a bottom up. At the end of the day, every child is suspended from a local school. The county boards approves expulsion, but the authority to suspend kids and discipline kids is at the local school level. It's so like judges. People talk about prison reform. I get it. I understand what they're talking about. But at the end of the day, there's only one group of people in the state of West Virginia that can send somebody to jail, and that's a judge. You can convince them to stop doing it when they don't have to do it. You can stop people from going to jail. Otherwise, as long as they basically can do it with impunity, then it's kind of you're pushing against a rope in some ways. The same thing with schools. At the end of the day, the principal normally delegates that role to the vice principal. There is no due process. Their decision is final. So that's where we've got to have people advocating and people aware of what's going on in their respective schools. So this has to be a ground game at the local level. State can't fix this, legislature can't fix it, Department of Education. No, it's going to take people being mobilized in their communities, find out what's going on in their schools. Quickly, I got one more slide, I think. So we got to be educated. I mean, ignorance is not bliss. This is not complicated, but it does require some due diligence to kind of understand the process, understand the discipline process in schools and the policy, and understand where the authority lies and rests, and understand that the local school improvement councils in each of the 680-some schools, they're there, but knowing they're rubber stamps with the principal, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing because the people are not involved that could really say, here's what we're supposed to be doing. We want to see the school discipline and what's happening in the school. And until that happens, nothing's going to change. Request the data from the schools, and meet with the superintendents and meet with the principals and say, look, we want to help fix this. What's your plan? And we want to see if we can be a part of the solution. Finally, next slide. What we're doing here, this has to be done all over the state, in every county, in every community. You've got to engage people. We got to talk about this. We got to get people to pay attention to it and to understand it. Feel the way. The whole community meetings with parents and students have been impacted by school discipline and suspension. People think this is a few kids. No, it's thousands around the state, right? Every year, it's hundreds every day. But these people are led to believe that they just got the bad kids, and it's not. It's a whole lot. And these people, we can get these parents talking and telling their stories. We're going to be surprised at what's happening to some children. My friend Rick Martin's on the line. He could tell you stories of where he has gotten involved and where kids were being suspended for 10 days. And once they saw that the kid had an advocate, they reversed the suspension. Mobilize people. We got to start not being afraid of these kids. We got to work with the kids that need the help. All right. So lastly, we got to educate ourselves. We got to educate the people, the public, the parents, community-based organizations, faith-based leaders. We got to educate them on this issue. We got to advocate for our children, and we got to agitate the system, the education system and the political system. Without advocacy, without education, they're not going to change. This has been normalized. This is accepted. They don't see that we're undermining ourselves because we're depleting our labor force. They don't see that over time, this is unsustainable. They really don't get it. And we're trying to make these economic arguments. We're trying to make these sociological arguments that we're weakening the society that we're undereducating entire communities that can never be developed because the people's education levels are so low, and that these people are going to be unemployed, underemployed, and they're going to be sick, and they're going to be a lot of them on drugs, and it's just going to be a cycle. But until we can persuade them to do out the goodness of their hearts, we got to use the law, and we got to use the power of our collective influence. I'm out of my time. I thank you for yours.
Okay, well, Reverend Watts, before we move on, I'm just compelled to ask one question, and that is, given all the data that you have shared, given all the work that you have done, and it's really overwhelming, and I commend you on that. What have you discovered in all of this is the reason for the resistance to the overwhelming data that you have just given, in terms of what's the excuse for not dealing with this? Where have you found the most resistance to the data that you have just given? And is there anything that could be recommended or suggested about dealing with that resistance at any level?
At the different levels, at the highest level of the Western Department of Education and the Western Board of Education, they just don't know what they don't know. They don't understand how significant this is. They don't have the intellectual curiosity to delve deeply into the long-term consequences. They're very shallow in their approaches up there. So that's part of the problem there. Secondly, there's a revolving door. We've had 5 superintendents over the last 7 years. So no one's in the seat long enough to really get anything done. As I've shared with you in the past, I got a PhD on how to not get anything done. Just keep starting over. And so they just keep starting over like they're starting over now, right? So that's the problem you have there. At the legislative level, they just preoccupy with a whole lot of other stuff, and they don't understand this, and there's no real policy want to dig deeply into this stuff, and there's no consequence for them not dealing with it. There's no public outcry. People not up there marching, protesting, demonstrating. There's no throng of people descending on the Senate Education Chair and the House Education Chair saying, you guys need to deal with this. There was only Rick Martin, myself, and Crystal Good, right, back in 2020 in these meetings, right? At the county level, it's a similar situation, but the bottom line, it's normalized into the system. This is how we manage the schools. If we got a kid that's calling to return, we just suspend them, and we get some relief for that day, right? And so it's become normalized. It's the way that they kind of manage and move things. And when there's no kick, when there's no consequence for you doing something, then you never really become creative to try to fix it, because it's not a problem. And no one is crying out and hollering and screaming about it, even though you look at the test data and these kids are doing horrifically bad, right? And there's so many of them, they're bringing all the test scores down, right? But they fail to see that. So and then you have some resistance from the establishment of people, that they've convinced people that these kids are so bad that they got to be removed. When in actuality, a lot of the kids have been suspended for very low level things. But I think the bottom line is nobody's been held accountable for this. And I'll just close with this. The legislature passed a law, told the Western Department of Education to develop the report and to develop a plan. The Western Department of Education didn't develop a plan. And the Legislative Oversight Commission on Education didn't ask them why. Didn't ask them no questions about why hadn't a plan been developed over the last 2 years. So that's what you have. You have this apathetic indifference because it's poor people. That's why it's poor people, and there's no organized effort, right, to advocate for it. But we think that the time is now coming through calls like this and other calls that people are paying attention, and they start asking questions. We think we can move this issue this year. We collectively, all of us here and others, can do it.
It looks like the responses in the chat have really confirmed that in a very powerful way. And thank you for what you've already done. I need help as far as identifying what next in the chat. And so, John, or one of the members of Truth in Action, would you advise what we do next in terms of who we call on next for this presentation from the core group that is presenting it? Martique Washington, Thank you very much. Martique, are you here? Martique, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey,
All right, Martique, your time is our
All
time.
right. So we just got a lot of information. And something that Reverend Watts said to me that really resonated was that no one is being held responsible. No one's being held accountable. Do you know why? Because it's not their children. It's our kids, it's our nieces, it's our nephews. And we need to take responsibility ourselves for dropping the ball. Because we've all seen generations of kids that were suspended that are out here still in the streets. Everybody on here got somebody they know that was suspended so much that they either dropped out,
That's right.
moved away, or they're out here dead because there was no other options for them. So as a community, as a whole, we need to, and I'm not saying we have to get out here on the streets and scream and yell that it's our fault, but we have to take accountability. We dropped the ball. We are allowing them to do this to our children. I don't have any kids personally, but I love every kid I see, every kid I've ever met. So we need to pick up the ball. If it's taking protests down there to the Board of Education, if it's going to the legislator, if it's sending letters, if we can, and I'm not trying to say that make this a big, huge political thing, but if we can send all these messages and do so many things for Joe Biden and try to get Joe Manchin, what about our kids? What about the future?
Talk, Martique.
So we need to pick up the ball and we need to make the change. We all need to do more in our community, and that includes me. I'm right here a block away from West Side Middle. So I can definitely go up there and reach out to the principal and see if we can't get with other people to figure out if there's a different path. Because if we're seeing that suspending children isn't paying off in the long run, why are we still doing it? We saw that seatbelts
That's right.
were needed, so we required every car to have them. Whether you like it or not, you have a seatbelt in your car. So we definitely should be doing better for our children, and we should be making noise at every turn, every chance, every time you're on TV, something. We need to show some type of representation that we're standing up for our kids. Because if we're not going to stand up for our kids and really put work in on it, they're not going to believe that they can be anything that they want to be. They're not going to believe that they can do anything because the system is built telling them that they're not. So that's all I have to say. We all need to get together and figure out a way to make these changes for our kids because they are our future. We see that suspension does not work, so we need to definitely make a difference.
Amen, bro.
Thank you, guys.
Amen.
Thank you, Martique.
Thank you,
Reverend
Mark.
Watts has provided the information. Martique has just provided the inspiration for getting it done. And I appreciate his enthusiasm as well as his commitment to really inspire to get the work done that we see needs to be done. All right, Takia.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly thank you, Martise. I appreciate that. And we need to keep that energy up. And I'm not going to go. I just have a few brief things to say. I really wanted to shout out some of the people on this call. I know we are in a webinar style, to be able to get through our call, and we'll probably work on that as we go on. But like I put in the chat, I left some names there because the thing is that many of us are already working on diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's a matter of staying connected and staying focused for a collective goal. I also wanted to shout out Campaign for a Shared Future. We've partnered with this national organization. They've supported our students as they've carried equity-centered conversations with educators, staff, and community members in ways that demonstrated how these matters affect us all. We have, they've also helped in other rural areas with similar issues. So in that list, you'll see Mr. Green. He is leading the Black Parents Association in Jefferson County. He's been a champion of exactly what we're talking about, making sure that parents feel supported, protecting our students, and exactly what some folks said, what Reverend Watt said. Some of these things are go differently for our students when advocates show up. So Mr. Green, Travis Williams with Berkeley County, Dr. Alfonso. I just wanted to just shout out some of those people, these students that have, it's taken a lot of courage, because this is the last thing I'll say. This is sensitive subject matter that they have to take to folks that have to have everyone's interest in mind. So the messaging and how we communicate it matters. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Shakira. The question I have right quick is, are the comments in the chat going to be available after this call? Because there are some comments that have requested to speak. We may not be able to do that. And if somebody gives me a direction about who it is from the panelists that would recommend someone to speak. But if we have some of the comments reserved from the chat, or make this available, and I think the recording may be available after this, after the conclusion of this particular event. So I thank you for your patience, and I really appreciate the responses that have come both to Reverend Watts and to Marquette Washington. All right.
Reverend English, we
Yes.
have a couple of direct questions. Do you want to field them before we end up? And
John.
it's my understanding that all of these things will be archived and copied and available on Facebook, for example.
John, would you recognize those questions, since you probably see them better than I?
Sure. Yes, I will give, and then most of them really go to the Reverend Watts.
All right.
One is for clarification from Jenny Williams. Reverend Watts, did you say that 90% of all school children live in just 15 counties, or was it 90% of all Black school children?
90% of all Black school children
Okay.
live in those 15 counties I had there, but
Okay.
roughly 50% of all children live in those 15 counties. The most populated 15 counties got about 50% of all children, and 90% of those in those 15 counties are Black children.
Okay. John Doyle asks if that it's a few years ago, it was estimated that there were about 10,000 homeless students in the school system. Do we have any updated information on that? And are there any insights about how that might be interacts with racial disparities in discipline?
John is always on point and extremely insightful. There's a stacking effect that takes place. So low-income children are spent at a higher rate. So then if you're low income and you're Black, it multiplies. If you're low income, you're Black, and you have a disability, it's multiplied. If you're low income and you're Black and you're a child foster care system, it's multiplied. If you're low income and you're Black and you're homeless, yes. That homeless population is probably one, and I'm asking for that data because they have the kids that are homeless. So they probably could run a query and actually tell us what is the rate of suspension for homeless kids. That's a very insightful observation, and we'll try to get that data.
The others are mostly comments. There's some recommendations about feeling that we need to get more people of color in classrooms, especially more Black teachers and administrators. And let's see, what else? And we have to encourage students to, Nancy Klein says we need to encourage our students to take advantage of the Grow Your Own program. I'm not familiar with that. Or any of the panelists can explain that, perhaps?
Explanation for Grow Your Own.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm not sure. She may be talking about, and I'm not sure. grow your own teachers in terms of, we've got to grow the teachers that we need, develop the teachers that we need in our communities. I'm not sure if that's what she's talking about or not, but I can follow up with her. I know her personally. She worked for, she's an educator par excellence.
Yeah, and as I said, we will archive the entire chat, and if we miss something, then we can get back to individuals. Reverend English asked a few minutes ago, mentioned about talking about perhaps what the West Virginia Coalition for Truth in History how we were able to, along with a lot of people, get these critical race theory issues battened down or not passed in the last legislature. And essentially that was just community action as we came together. And I think as Takia pointed out, there are a lot of groups going on. There's a lot of groups coming together in this state with similar basic philosophies operating on different issues, whether it be CRT, whether it be homelessness, whether it be gun violence. And there's this, I have a sense at any rate of much more citizen action, which is, as everyone has said, what it's going to take. So I think the point of keeping together and keeping each other informed about what each other is doing so we can work, present a united front, if you will, is very important as we go forward. Chris Schultz has put in about teachwestvirginia.com/grow-your-own has talked, is where you can find out about that. That's all the direct questions I can see as we have moved through there. So I'm done.
All right. The recording will be available on the Facebook page. I think that's already in the chat room, so that you can see that this recording will be available. Matthew,
can I have just a final comment before we get on?
go right ahead.
And I will be free. First of all, I want to thank everybody for your attentiveness. I want to thank you for your patience. And we kept almost everybody. This is much better than I do when I'm preaching. We had 45 people. We still got 41, right? So, so
I hear that loud and clear.
They raise their hand to get out, right? But let me say this. Martise Washington, I believe, is one of the most important young leaders. He and Takia, they were together in our state. I've watched them grow up, watched them mature. They're incredible, right? So we got to give them voice and give them space to be heard. Because I think they can speak to the younger people who are the parents of these children, right? And they can still speak to the kids, and we can bring them on board. That's the first thing I want to say. Secondly, we have some incredible educators, Black and white, doing incredible stuff in these schools, working them to the bone, but they don't have the type of support that they need from parents and from the community. And we've got to find them and we've got to support them. And in particular, some of the best educators in our state are some of our African-American educators, and two of them on this call. Janet Coleman, who's working on the West Side and pouring her life into kids, working on her PhD, and Miss Nancy Klein. So we've got to create forums so they can be heard. We got to give them the mic. They have been in the classroom. Janet has been a principal. Nancy has taught. And we need to let our educators educate us in terms of what we need to be doing to help families and help young people. And so I think it's important that we do that. We got to protect our teachers that's in the system that's fighting for our kids, because it can be a lonely place to be when they try to stand into the system. Thirdly, as Dr. Martin Luther King often would say, we've got to act with a fierce sense of the urgency of now. We can't just keep talking. And I'm going to encourage you to do something tomorrow. And here's what you can do. I don't know if you're available or not, Martise, but if you are, I would love for Martise, if you could be at the state school board meeting tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Sign up. You can go to the Western State School Board website. and you can sign up to get on their agenda. They need to hear Martise. They'll give you 5 minutes, that's all. But you get to say pretty much what you want to say as long as you're not profane, and I know you won't be, but they need to hear from you and hear what you have to say tomorrow if possible. Those of you in Charleston who could be there, it'd be great if a few more of you could show up. Fourthly, if you can't, these school board meetings are streamed live. And I would encourage you to watch the school board meeting tomorrow. I believe the school suspension is going to be back on the agenda. And once it gets back on the agenda, then we got to keep it on the agenda. And then fifthly, I'm going to encourage you to do an assignment in your county. Call your county superintendent. Ask them what data do they have on school discipline and suspension, and tell them you would like to have a copy of it, and you like to have a copy of the school discipline policy. On the policy, they're probably going to send you to the website, which is fine. You know how to get there. And then the last thing I would say is that if we really want to change something, you know what we have to do? Change something. We actually got to change something. And so I'm encouraging you to make an effort to visit the local school that's near you, preferably a middle school or high school, because that's where most of the suspensions are occurring. And try to talk to the principal and ask them who is the local school improvement council, who's on it, when is the next meeting held, and try to visit the local school improvement council meeting at the school to see what do they talk about and what's on the agenda. These are places where we're going to start. And when I said educate yourself, the only way to educate yourself is going to the school board meetings, you know, and when they see that we're being educated, then your education is going to inform you as to what you can do as an individual and inform you what you can do possibly, you know, as a group. And lastly, if anybody's interested, probably about 8:30, anybody want to join me? I'm going to probably go live on Facebook, and you can join me for a conversation. I invite you to come in and to talk to me if you would like, just to try to keep this thing moving forward. And I believe that we've had some press covering this event this evening, and I look for opportunity to respond when things are in the press about it, and commend the press, you know, for highlighting this issue. And then lastly, keep your eye on Black by God. Black by God newspaper. My good friend, Crystal Good, she's been involved in this from the beginning, right? When we were trying to figure out what was going on with kids, when she worked with me back in 2002, 2003, but she was at the legislature in 2020. We were trying to get the legislation passed, and she's followed this thing, and she's doing an excellent job with her newspaper and with her website. Go to Black by God to keep the people informed about what's going on with school suspension. So those are specific assignments that we can do. And then when we come back again, hopefully shortly after the first of the year, we'll have a game plan and in terms of how we move forward with the legislature.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you.
And those biblical words, you have almost persuaded me to get back in the classroom as a substitute teacher. And I mean, I'll be on the scene, man. I mean, yeah, right. You've really done that. But also, I want to say that the connections that have been made on this call are really vital. And I hope that they will be sustained. And also, I want to give a shout out again to Black by God, Crystal Good, because she's been on this a long time and she has the most creative ways of messaging what we are talking about. And if you pay attention to Black by God, it usually winds up being in a message that is understandable. It has impact. It has humor when needed, but it also leaves a message that you can see as well as understand or read. So I really encourage your participation in Black by God. Also, what other platforms may be used for this kind of conversation? And I think that the Citizen Action Group would be helpful for you identifying other kinds of platforms that this information can be shared on, and probably get the kind of responses that have come through by way of the chat rooms that you have identified today. And thank you so much for all of your participation. Thank you so much, Matthew, for your continued commitment and how that hopefully has been even more contagious beyond the content of what you have shared. And thank Marquise for what he just does and the way that he is so gifted to be able to ignite and excite as well as inform. And so this has really been a great meeting, and I appreciate everybody's participation. And in the spirit of the season, may all things be good with you and your home and house and those that you love. Thank you for your presence here tonight.
Thank you, Reverend. Thank you, Miss Julie. Miss Chris Olson, appreciate you.
All good.